think what you do there? Emoji.
No. It was the shrug emoji.
Oh, the shrug.
The shrug emoji. Not the...
Tyreek Hill saw that, and he weighed in and said, "Go cry it. Go cry on set tomorrow."
His only misstep was tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's okay. So I had someone responded that maybe he does know that we have shows Monday through Friday, but he's telling you
just go to the set, on a Saturday and just cry.
Just wait.
Just get it
Wait
over
for
with.
Monday.
Yeah.
Your reaction.
All right, no reason to delay the inevitable. Bring me the new bulletin board, because this, in and of itself, deserves its own bulletin board. This NFL Top 100 nonsense. We now live in a world where Patrick Mahomes is listed as the 4th best player in the league, when if the Chiefs had the opportunity to trade Patrick Mahomes for these 3 guys, all of them, they'd say no. Like, well, you can have Lamar, Christian McCaffrey, and Tyreek, or Mahomes. You know what? We're going to stick with Mahomes. We live. What?
I agree with
okay, well,
you would?
okay, well,
all 3 guys.
You're out of your mind. You would not. Thank you, Brew.
No way.
That's
an amazing team.
Yeah, you know what?
He's an amazing team.
Exactly. Thank you, Brew. Tyreek Hill, who of course was excellent last year, except for the 2 games he played the Chiefs. One when Trent McDuffie stole the ball from him and flipped that game. The other one, L'Jarius Sneed punked him. Neither of those guys top 100 players. Lamar Jackson, who obviously had a great season, won another MVP, until, of course, he was in the AFC Championship game, saw Patrick Mahomes staring across the field from him, and ended up playing his worst game of the year. And then there's Christian McCaffrey, another guy who had his biggest mistake of the year in the game against Mahomes, the fumble in the red zone, and a guy who had his season ended by Patrick. So, for the bulletin board, we have to put why they're on here. And again, I'm not really good at doing the bulletin board in real time, but I'll try. You think I should stand, but then my back's to the audience? Now I'm dropping things.
This is just
I told you I should have done it the way I was doing it, Wilds. Best player, second best player, and then of course Christian McCaffrey, the 3rd best player. But I don't think. What'd you say?
You got straight.
Oh, I need to fix this. This is we should have really.
You could really
this.
put.
It's okay.
But
hold on.
Well, you got
Tyreek's got to be on there twice, because Tyreek also, in something, and again, I'm not going to reveal private messages. But Tyreek's tweet to me didn't land so well on the doorstep of someone who got snubbed off the top 3 of this list. Leave it at that. So Tyreek Hill, go cry on set. Come on, Tyreek. I've always defended you. You're one of the greatest Chiefs of all time. You're one of the greatest receivers of all time. Don't spend the moments after you're named the best player in the league arguing with people on the internet. However, this does bring us to the actual point here. Brew, which I think you will agree with, and I think you agree with a lot of what I've said here, but somehow, once again, the Chiefs, in the midst of a dynasty, and Mahomes, in the midst of his apex prime, get to play the no one believes in us card. Patrick Mahomes is somehow an underrated GOAT. He is certainly a disrespected GOAT. And the Chiefs, who have been underdogs in Vegas in 4 of their last 5 playoff games, now get to say, no one believed in us, and the whole league voted and said, we have 3 guys on the whole team in the top 100, and we don't have the best quarterback, and we don't have the best player. So, if there was any question about how much motivation would they have for the three-peat, this list finally, or gave it to them legitimately incredibly.
Pretty good.
I agree.
Good job.
I agree with a lot of that. And I guess you do have the logo on there, because I was going to say you could put the whole league on there.
By the way,
voting for
on our official bulletin board, that's what's going on.
The whole league. Okay.
Yeah, well, on the real 2024 bulletin board, this was special for it.
Yeah, auxiliary.
Yes, exactly.
No, look, I've said it before. I've never seen a team, after the 2-time defending champions, have such motivation, have such a legitimate right to have a chip on their shoulder. All right? And that is the thing. When you've won 2 championships, even 1 championship, you have to fight complacency. You have to fight taking your opponents lightly. You have to fight, just getting big-headed because you're a celebrity, whatever it is. They don't have to fight any of that. All right, their motivation within themselves, but they have external motivations. When Michael Jordan was going for his three-peats, no one was saying he wasn't the best player in the world.
No.
When Shaq and Kobe were going for their three-peat, no one was saying, oh, they got lucky, they're not that good, whatever it is. And this is how hard it is when you've had such success. The Miami Heat with the Heatles, LeBron and Wade. When they won their 2 straight championships, that third season, they only won 50, or that fourth season, but they were going for a three-peat. They only won 54 regular season games, and we know they got beaten 5 in the finals. Some of that, you're just not quite as motivated, all right? And now the Chiefs have so much external motivation. You got this, obviously, and I think all the players, Nick, will look at that as disrespectful to their leader, Mahomes, and they'll be motivated about that as well. Then Mahomes has always had, and this is fortunate for him, he's always had the carrot that Tom Brady has put out there with 7 Super Bowls. And that just lets you know what's possible. If Brady had never won 7, say he won 2 or 3, I don't know how much Mahomes is thinking, can I keep winning more? Maybe 4. No one's won more than 4, no quarterback. So other than Brady. So I think that this is great for the Chiefs. And let me say this quickly, because this is the only thing that makes sense. Reportedly, the voting is done by the players from Thanksgiving to New Year's, like New Year's.
Thanksgiving.
All right, so kind of December.
It's done in the final month of the regular season.
Yeah, which I
found
think
an article on GQ
Yeah,
that actually explained it.
I saw the article in GQ,
helpful.
which I think is ridiculous. I mean, I guess that's the only time you might be able to get all the players.
I think
but
that's the idea.
It'd be
They're
better
all
to
still
do
there.
it, at the end of the year. Because let's just keep it real. In December, the Chiefs were 2-3. Mahomes had, I think, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So we know he wasn't having his best year. And Tyreek, before December, so right when the players start to vote, he had 7 100-yard games. I think he was still on pace to break the all-time record. He had 120 yards a game is what he was averaging. And remember, in December, after December started, Tyreek had 1 100-yard receiving game. That's it. So I think if it's done after the year, it's a whole, Mahomes is clearly number 1.
I guess. I think that, but it's not, the list is not who were the best players of this past season. It's the best players in the league, and which is why the entirety of guys' careers are accounted for. Somewhat, we said Joe Burrow, should have motivation, but Burrow also was just based on how you played that year. He wouldn't have been on the list. Rodgers played 4 snaps. He wouldn't have been on the list.
Yeah.
And I think there has clearly been, Wilds, repeatedly, an urge for folks to move past the Patrick Mahomes era as we're just getting into it. There was an urge. Josh Allen's flat. You know what? Josh Allen is better than him. And I don't care that Mahomes won the 13-second game coming off that season because Mahomes then lost the next week and played poorly in that game. It was Josh Allen is QB1. That was not a fringe opinion. It might not have been the majority opinion, but it was a significant opinion. Sure. Then it was, Burrowhead and Joe Burrow. That's the team to beat. And now in the moment, it was Lamar. And that's why I brought up the underdog piece of it. It's not a straw man win. Patrick Mahomes, they were the underdogs when the line opened for a home playoff game against Cincinnati when he was hurt. He then won that game. They were the underdogs to Philly. Then they beat Miami when they were the favorites. They were the underdogs to Buffalo. They were the underdogs to Baltimore. They were the underdogs in the Super Bowl. Like that. That's 4 of your last 5 playoff games, 5 of 6 if you include the home game against Cincinnati, where you've been underdogs.
July 29th, 2020, the last NFL 100 list where Mahomes was ranked number 4. It went Lamar, Russ, Aaron Donald, and then Mahomes. And then in September of that same year.
Russell Wilson?
Yeah, Russell
Number
Wilson.
2?
Russell Wilson was number 2. It'd be stranger if it was Russell Westbrook, but yeah, it was Russell Wilson. So then in September, after this list came out, he counts to 4 after throwing his 4th touchdown, and that was against the Ravens. So now we're kind of set up for history to repeat itself. You know what? I am going to do it. It's August. Early hot take. 4 touchdowns opening night.
Oh,
Mahomes
against Baltimore.
Against Baltimore.
Yes, that's where that would follow the same path. He was ranked number 4. Lamar was ranked number 1. The first time he got to play the Ravens, he threw 4 touchdowns and started counting on his fingers. I would say the same thing is going to happen. You heard it here first. An early Punxsutawney Phil of football take.
Okay, I like
a good take.
Are you still Punxsutawney Phil of football after your disastrous upset alert last year?
Oh, it didn't snow, so are we not doing it? Are we canceling Gobbler's Knob the next year?
I don't know what you're
You don't know what Gobbler's Knob is?
No, I don't.
He doesn't know what Gobbler's Knob is. It's where Punxsutawney Phil lives. In any event, it was a rewarding and lucrative weekend for Tyreek when the Dolphins agreed to restructure his deal. Headline is 3 years for $90 million, $65 million guaranteed. In the total guaranteed money, about $107 million. Most ever for a wide receiver. So here's Tyreek's stats last year. He's second in receptions, first in deep bombs, first in receiving yards, and tied for first in touchdowns. Are we all buying Tyreek is the best non-quarterback in the NFL?
Look, let me say this about the list. I don't think it was a good list overall, and certainly disagree with the top. But I will give the players credit in that they did not give the quarterback position extra weight, clearly. All right, which I like, because we're talking about football players, and it's obviously hard because they all do so many different things. It's unlike basketball and baseball where they all do different things specifically because of their position. So I'll give them credit for that. And look, some people might say it could have been Myles Garrett because a lot of the argument against Tyreek might be, well, look at his team. I mean, they're good. They made the playoffs, but they don't make noise.
Yep.
Myles Garrett, team, okay, doesn't make a lot of noise. TJ Watt, great, but injured, injuries a little bit for TJ is an issue. Christian McCaffrey, I think you might say, well, he does, as great as he is, he's the best running back in the league. He benefits from all those weapons too, all right, with George Kittle and Ayuk and Debo and Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. So he's benefiting from his weapons. So I don't have a problem with Tyreek being number 1. And I don't know if Nick's going to say he's not even the best receiver. He does drop more than some of the other top receivers. Yeah. But his speed, he changes the game so much. And he is not just a deep threat. He's a guy that goes across the middle, that catches the little quick passes and slants and can take them to the house. He's great running after the catch. I got no issue with this. Outside of quarterbacks, I got no issue with Tyreek.
I don't think it's criminal. I don't think it's an awful take if someone thinks this. It's not what I believe. There's 2 guys that play either Tyreek's position or a similar one that I'd rather have. So it really depends on what the goal is. If your goal is to have a guy who is most likely to help you in the biggest moments, there is no player in the league, non-quarterback, that I would rather have than Travis Kelce, flatly. There is no player in the league that I think is more, and he is historically prolific in the postseason. Some of those numbers were before Patrick got there. Obviously, most of them are with Patrick, but he is, even in a year like last year, where he looked injured, old, and a step slow, he was unguardable the entire postseason, including against Kyle Hamilton in the AFC Championship game, against I don't know if it was, no one remembers, the Bills or the Dolphins game where he had the 11 catches on 11 targets. And then in the Super Bowl, he set up the game-tying field goal with the catch and run the fastest he was all year.
And with no great receivers.
When everyone knows that's what you have to do, exactly.
That's fair.
And then, but if we're not just giving extra importance to playoffs, we're talking about who's the scariest or best receiver in the league. I think it's Justin Jefferson. I think Tyreek historically is obviously better than Justin because of what he's done so long. But Justin Jefferson has played 60 games. He has 5,900 yards. So he's 100 yards a game or 98 yards a game for his career. Obviously, he hasn't done it with terrible quarterbacks, but he hasn't had great quarterbacking ever. He's had basically league average quarterbacking.
Cousins puts up numbers.
But I think a lot of that has been because of Justin Jefferson. And last year, he didn't have the great quarterbacking. And what he doesn't have that Tyreek has had for the entirety of his time as a great player is another great player alongside him. Tyreek in Kansas City had Travis. Tyreek in Miami has Waddle. And great player for Waddle, might be a touch strong, but a guy defenses really have to pay attention to. Everyone knows with Minnesota, if we stop Justin Jefferson, how are they going to beat us? And he still gets you 100 yards every game. And so I don't, again, the tweet or whatever, I love Tyreek Hill, the player, and I'm not taking a shot. I think Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in football, and I've thought that for a couple of years.
I just think Tyreek, and he has been great with 3 quarterbacks, and 2 of them we'll see how good 2 ends up being. Alex Smith. You know, they're good, but not great other than Mahomes. But I just think his speed, and Jefferson's great, but Tyreek's speed is just such a difference maker that that's why I would take him. That's why I would take him.
All right, coming in with the silver medal in the top 100 is the league's reigning MVP. He's the MVP, so he has a claim at number 1. And here's the argument, even though Mahomes is the champ. Mahomes posted career worst numbers in passing yards, yards per pass, touchdowns to interception ratio, and passer rating. He was so bad that he had to win 2 road playoff games before winning the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. So does Lamar deserve to be the top quarterback?
No. And you guys know I'm a fan of Lamar. And again, I won't belabor it. In December, when they're voting, okay, he would look like he was heading to a second MVP. Mahomes was having a down year, as were the Chiefs. I get that. But, I mean, it's not even debatable who's the best player and quarterback in the league. It's clearly Patrick Mahomes. I would bet most players that voted for Lamar over Mahomes, I bet are saying Mahomes is the best now. And we a lot of times we look at playoff record for, Lamar's been great in the regular season, obviously. But we look at playoff record, and Mahomes is 15-3 with the 3 Super Bowls. Lamar's 2-4 and hasn't had his great game. So it's not even debatable.
So there's 2 places I want to take this. First one is, I really wish we could have seen how this landed at Jamar Chase's feet.
Well, we got tricked. That was the problem.
No, he got tricked.
Oh, you think so?
I know so. He's saying, I won't, yes. He's saying, they asked him who he thinks number 1 is. He assumes it's Mahomes and is like, I won't say his name. And then the number 1 ends up being Tyreek Hill.
Maybe it is about Tyreek Hill.
No, it's not about Tyreek Hill. But Jamar was so certain that number 1 on this list was going to be Mahomes. They did an NFL Network put out the little sizzle reel of it, seemingly to trick us or because they thought it was going to be as well. Here's the question I have for you, Brew. Obviously, I don't think Lamar should be the top quarterback. I would still have a problem if Mahomes and Tyreek were flip-flopped and it was Mahomes 1, Lamar 2. I would still say it's too high for Lamar.
You mean I'm the second quarterback?
Yeah, I'm saying let's just Mahomes. Yes, if the list just pretend
Lamar was second best player.
Well, that's what he is right now, right? He's number 2 on this, and Tyreek's number 1. The issue is that makes him the number 1 quarterback. I'm saying just pretend that the list was Mahomes 1, Lamar 2. I still think that's too high.
You put it who? Why? Who do you want?
Because here's no for quarterbacks, just amongst quarterbacks. I don't think a player that even his most ardent fans don't trust in the postseason can be the second best quarterback. I just don't. And I know that I have gotten, Lamar's sent some tweets about me too, and I like Lamar a lot as well. Something happened on this show last week that I think was a little indicative of some of the discourse around Lamar that I think has been not dishonest, but revisionist history. Because you said what a lot of people said, which is, man, if Zay Flowers doesn't fumble that ball. And that's fair, but what's also true is, after Zay Flowers fumbled, the Chiefs punted. And then Lamar got the ball back and had a chance and threw this pass in the biggest spot of his career with 2nd and 10. Clean pocket, plenty of time.
It wasn't great.
Triple coverage to lose the AFC Championship game. And so as much as we can be like, well, if Zay doesn't fumble, even with the Zay fumble, they were alive. If Lamar does anything other than that there. And so that's just very hard for me to say that he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. Not because of that play, but because that play wasn't shocking to me, Brew, in the moment.
Can I make an argument
Yeah.
for pro Lamar? Because we do this a little bit in basketball. Like if you didn't win the championship, you kind
To
of
be
get
the best?
You kind of get
You're
knocked.
making an argument for him
No,
to be
but I'm
ahead of
talking
Mahomes?
about playoff success.
Okay.
The argument for the players to be above him, we don't think Brock is above him, even though he went to the Super Bowl. So he's got Brock. Is Joe Burrow above him? Because Joe Burrow didn't even make the playoffs. So is Josh Allen above him? He went further than Josh Allen. So the argument that I'm making is, if you're not saying it's Brock, he went further than every other quarterback. So, even though he didn't have one, and he gets penalized for the win-loss record because he has a bye. Because he was so good, he doesn't get that free win like Josh Allen gets over the Steelers.
But I'm not penalizing him for the win-loss record. I am penalizing him because every single year he's been in the league.
Who had a better playoff record than him this year?
No. But I don't look at this as based on this year in a vacuum. And so I don't think the players do either. I think it's all, especially because, by the way, this was voted on before the even playoffs happened, evidently. So I can get over a bad playoff win-loss record. I can't get over that I expect you to play poorly in the postseason. That's the difference. So you can say Joe Burrow.
You expect Josh Allen to struggle in the postseason to some degree.
No, I expect him to lose to the Chiefs. I don't expect Josh Allen to play poorly in every playoff game Lamar goes into. I'm surprised if he plays well.
I'm with Wilds on, and we talked about it last week. I've got no problem with Lamar being number 2. All right, and you can argue Burrow, you can argue Josh Allen. We'll see if next year you can argue C.J. Stroud or somebody else. But he's been so good in the regular season. And I get the postseason, but to Wilds' point, none of those guys has won a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's been to one. Okay, that's nice. You haven't won it. And if you just end up going to one, it doesn't matter. Like, Lamar has been so much, at least in terms of decorations, in terms of accolades. Right, he's got the 2 MVPs. Neither Burrow or Allen, they don't have one. And he's got, the 75% win percentage. So I think he's been so good in the regular season, and those guys, neither of them has won the Super Bowl either, that I got no problem with him being number 2.
All right, Burrow looking forward to going back to New Orleans